Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Boyos Discuss, the podcast where we pick a topic and then shoot the shit about it for a while. This week we're talking about episode 8 of Shenmue the Animation, which is titled Aspiration. I'm Matthew and I'm joined by my co-host Ben. How's it going?
Pretty good.
So with that out of the way, we don't really have any Shenmue news this week. We're gonna jump right into the synopsis. We open the episode with Ryo having that same nightmare from a few episodes ago of the bad ending from Shenmue 2, where essentially it's Shenhua out on a cliff somewhere and Londi walks up to her and he's like...
looking at her.
Yeah, and then he wakes up and it's, just a nightmare. And Fang Mei, who was the girl from the previous episode, who sort of was like, you'll be back to the temple. She did the
anime wink.
Yeah. So she barges in to Shu Ying's apartment and is like, "Wake up!" And he's like, "Oh my god!" She basically tells him that he needs to meet Shu Ying at Manmo Temple, and then we get the sort of opening credits theme song after that. Or wait, no, actually that comes a bit later. I jumped the gun on that, but
you boob.
Yeah. So at Manmo Temple, Shu Ying tells Ryo that he needs to air out these books in the temple's library, and essentially that'll be his way of paying rent since he's just staying there for free. But from there, he starts moving the books out of the temple onto these little tables that are set up outside, and he nearly drops a pile of books from the top shelf, and Fang Mei, she gets like hella pissed at him. She's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm sorry."
Well, he's incompetent. I mean, I'd be mad too.
Yeah.
I'd be like, bitch, you can't move books?
So she scolds him and basically is going to help him move the book. She's like, "I'll do the ones on the top shelf. You just do what you can reach, you fucking idiot." And he's like, "Okay." So after that, we finally do get the intro,
which is kind of funny. Like, I noticed that there's so much emphasis still on like the first 5 episodes in the intro and just like nothing for like this part. Like they show Joy and they show I don't know, fucking sexy ab
Ren
guy.
Yeah, Ren.
But that's it. And it's like there's already characters that are more important than seeing fucking what's his name?
Goro. And Master Chen.
Just to remind us that he's still getting beat. Like, I don't, we're past that. You could put in like the new Master Tao. You could put in fucking some of the masters with the Wude.
Could have put Wong in there, the little kid.
Yeah. Because now we were like, we're not going to see them again.
Yeah.
They're gone. But anyway, I mean, that's a nitpick.
I mean, I agree. Like, I sort of was speculating that they were going to do like a mid-season like change of the opening.
It's just like the only part of this opening, which is going to deal with 8 episodes, is seeing Joy and Abman.
Yes.
And that's it. Like, that's all. That's game 2 wrapped up. It's just those 2.
Well, and then it's weird because like for the credits music, it still is the same as well. It's like Ryo and Nozomi, and then they're with that like kitten.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting that they sort of have just kept that the same. But again, it's just really nitpicks, if anything.
Yeah.
But after the intro, we go over to the come over guest house, and Joy is there sort of talking to the receptionist. And she's asking him if Ryo is still staying there or not. And he basically is like, "Nah, that guy left. He probably ran out of money after he paid his bill." And so Joe's like, "Well, shit, where'd he go?" So from there, we go back to Manmo Temple, and Ryo and Fang Mei are done bringing out the books for the day. And she tells Ryo that they're going to need to put them back inside of the library at 3 p.m. And Ryo's like, "Oh, thank God, we're done with all these books."
Yeah.
And she's like, "About that." If we
like,
can...
Did you see how many books there were? You obviously didn't.
So she's like, "Yeah, in order to air out all the books, it's going to take about a week to do that." And
some musty-ass books.
Yes. And so Ryo is sort of pissed off. He's like, "Damn, I'm wasting all my time with this." He doesn't understand why Shu Ying is making him do all this work, and Fang Mei, of course, sort of keeps scolding him. She's like, "Hey, she's letting you stay there for free."
It's nice to see a woman immune to Ryo's charms. Yes, she's just like, "You're a fucking bitch," and it's like, yeah.
I think it's like, because in the game she has a crush on him too.
Oh my God. Like... Is there a woman that does not have a crush on this man? Is there a single one?
Yeah.
Who?
In Shenmue 3, there's like a femme fatale sort of character.
Okay.
Who's like very like over-sexualized, let's be
Of course.
real here.
Yeah.
But she like sort of uses that like to her advantage, I guess. Like she's one of those types where it's like
She doesn't know she's dealing with the asexual master himself. Like, what is
Yeah.
he interested in her?
No,
Exactly.
Ren is though, and
Yeah.
he says this line which is sort of infamous. They go into this this like big castle at the end or whatever.
Okay.
She's chilling on this like couch as a villain would.
Right.
And Ren like sees her and he's like, "Damn, look at the pair on her." And
my
it's
God.
like that's
Pair of fists. She must be really good at fighting.
But I mean
3 games to get to a woman who isn't just creaming over Rio.
yes.
He is not. Whatever. I've said this enough. I'm out of breath with it.
But from there, let me see, where were we? Okay, yeah. So Rio, he doesn't understand why Shu Ying is making him do that. Fang Mei scolds him. And then from there, Rio sort of is walking. He's going to start looking for martial artists again. And Han Hui, also known as Stalin's
That's right.
Stash,
The one and only.
he notices that Rio is frustrated about wasting his time with chores. And Han Hui essentially explains that the books are as old as the temple itself. He's like, yeah, they're like hundreds of years old, dude. Like, we got to
Have
take
some
care of this
goddamn
shit.
respect.
Yeah. And, you know...
Get the mildew off them pages, boy.
Yeah. And so he sort of speculates that Shu Ying is trying to teach Rio more about the Wude through this sort of work that he's doing. We'll sort of elaborate more on that, like thematically, you know, taking
It's like
care of...
Karate Kid.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But yeah, so it's sort of trying to teach him something, but we'll touch on that.
He's going to use the page turning move in his next tournament.
Yeah.
Beat the bullies.
From there, though, Rio goes off to look for some more martial artists, and he just starts fucking booking it because he's like, I gotta be back by 3. And he immediately, like, goes around a corner and nearly knocks over Gui Zhang, which is the old woman from episode 6 that we saw at the Anton apartments. It's sort of confusing again with the names where you have
she's
Gui
like,
Zhang
who are
and
you? Fuck you. You're a tourist. I hate you.
yeah.
That's not well.
She's
really
also
cranky.
immune to his charm, but she's
That
also
does not
100.
fucking count, and that is not true.
I mean,
No,
yeah,
she
she
wants
warms
him.
up to it.
Yeah,
I don't
she
think
does. Yeah, he does. She does a lot of warming up.
I don't think in that in the way
okay.
you're referring to.
Maybe you didn't see it, but
You're right. I didn't. But it's just weird. Like I don't know if it's the pronunciations of the names, but this is another one of those things where you had Zoshan and Zhongquan in the last episode.
Yeah.
Then you have Gui Zhang in this, and then Gui Zhang in who's Master Chen's son.
this is too hard. And this is why, like, I'm a history major. I fucking love it, but I'm really scared to take any kind of like Chinese or Japanese history, because I'm gonna be like, fuck, man, it was hard enough when it was all like blank, boring ass white names like I have, but fucking, I can't keep all this straight. It's hard. It's hard.
So he runs into Gui Zhang and knocks this box into the air. It's sort of comical how high it flies
Yeah.
up in the air, but he catches it. And Gui Zhang is like, well, listen here, you little shit. Like, you almost killed me at my age if I fell.
It's got my
So-
glass dildo collection. It's priceless.
But she's like, yeah, you're going to help me
You're
deliver
gonna
this.
mold for those, huh? You know who did? No, you wouldn't. You're just a rowdy kid.
I really don't like where this is going. But she's like, yeah, you're going to help me deliver this because you caused a mild inconvenience for me. And he's like, okay, I guess so.
Yeah.
So they head over to this tea shop, and you know, essentially it turns out that it's this antique tea set. She's like, yeah, I just had it sort of chilling. You can use it, I guess. It was just collecting dust.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, thanks, neat.
Yep. Before they got here, though, I wanted to say, like, they were on the street, right? And they're in Hong Kong, like, on the streets again. And they do it again later in the episode. And I didn't really mention it last episode, but they've really stopped showing other people in Hong Kong. Like, those weird
Yeah, the
anime Uncanny Valley people.
who they just like sketch.
Yeah, they're
like
just
real
gone.
people.
Like,
yeah.
that's not a thing anymore.
They pop up every now and then, but it's
They were
not...
in episode 2 once. Or not episode 2, but 7, the one before
Yeah.
this. Once. Like, I remember that. I remember seeing them once. And then it was back to just kind of like one-on-one conversations, and they're the only people that exist on the street. And it's kind of weird. Like, it feels weirder than the weird blob people, honestly.
Yeah.
Because they're in Hong Kong. And I mean, like, fine, I can suspend my disbelief and be like, sure, they ran into each other in the most crowded city on the world or whatever.
Yeah.
But when there's nobody else, it's I noticed.
Well,
it's
that's
kind of weird.
That's what's sort of interesting when you try to adapt Shenmue. It's very much a game franchise where you're going to where people are and then asking them about stuff. It's not, you're not really
I ran into them.
bumping
What a
into
coincidence.
people. Yeah. So it's sort of, it's interesting and maybe just a challenge of adapting this particular franchise to make it sort of more dynamic and less going back and forth, although they did do a lot of that in the last episode.
It's fine. Like, if you need to move the plot, there's more creative ways to do it, but don't even waste your time, because it doesn't matter really. Just fucking have them bump into each other. I don't care. It just draws attention to it when nobody's on the street in the middle of the day in Hong Kong.
But so Rio, he with the antique sort of tea set, he's like, oh, is it valuable or whatever? And Guizhang is like, well, not really, but its true value lies in the eye of the beholder. And she's like, just sort of like the city, and then she wanders off and he's like, oh, I'll ponder that. So after that, we have Joy walking down the street, and she catches Wong trying to snatch her wallet from her back pocket. It's debatable whether or not he was trying to grab her ass, but,
He was trying to snatch, all right.
That's also a fair point.
He's going for the snatch.
But she tells him that he's still decades away from being able to snatch her purse, and she asks him if he's seen...
Another innuendo, by the way.
Yes, yeah. So she asks if Wong has seen Rio around lately, and he hasn't seen him, but he tells her that he'll use his street connections to help her out, and he puts his hand out. He's like, okay, you got to pay up, though. And she's like...
Wah. She goes, oh, Wong! And then they do like and then a big gong sound, and then confetti falls. Because it's just so fucking funny.
So after that, back at the temple, Feng Mei tells Shuying that she had to help Rio with the books since he's a scatterbrain and he can't do anything right, and he's just a piece of shit.
That's a nice way of saying he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. And so she tells Shuying that she'll whip him into shape, and then they sort of are like, yeah, I gotta run this errand, and she's like, okay, we'll run errands together or whatever. So after that, Wong and Joy finally catch up with Rio, and Joy asks Wong if any of his street connections can help Rio find a martial artist, and Wong remembers seeing one at Pigeon Park, and we'll sort of get back to that.
What a fucking awful name. I would never in my life go to a park called Pigeon Park. I fucking hate pigeons. Who wants to go to Pigeon Park?
In the game, though, there's just a bunch of pigeons there.
Right,
and so
because it's
like,
Pigeon Park. Fuck pigeons. They just shit. They're flying rats.
Yeah.
They're awful.
Yeah.
Don't go to Pigeon Park. Don't name your park Pigeon Park. Anyway.
So at the park, Rio meets with the martial artist. It turns out it's a woman named Eileen. And Wong jokes that Rio is a real ladies' man, and he
That's
tells...
not a joke.
I mean, yeah, it's not. But he tells Joy, he's like, oh yeah, if you don't take Rio off the market, then someone else will. And Joy is like, I am definitely not into him in any such way.
Has Rio told her yet where he's staying?
Oh shit, yeah, that was earlier. That was in the previous scene. Yeah,
okay.
She's like, hey, you're not staying at the guest house anymore. Like, what's the deal with that? And he's like, yeah, I'm staying with someone now, like,
and
at
she
their
goes,
place.
What?
Yeah, like, he doesn't even specify that it's a woman.
Yeah, and she goes,
she just is like...
But I'm not interested in him in any way.
Yeah. But, so Eileen, she wants to spar with Rio, and of course, Rio being the sexist pig that he is like, I don't fight women, even though I clearly had this lesson taught to me.
I'm learning about how to be humble. Now get out of my fucking way, you weaker sex.
Make me dinner.
Yeah.
So yeah, he refuses to attack her, and she just fucking starts going ham at him.
Which is bold. You
Yeah.
know, if somebody's like, no, I don't want to fight you, and you just
She just assumes he's a martial
that's
artist.
bolder than
Yeah.
Rio trying to just fucking cripple this old man in a park who was like, let's fight.
Yeah.
She's fucking. She's got a record.
So they spar for a little bit, and Rio asks her if she knows about the Wude, and she doesn't know what they are, but she says she knows someone at the convenience store who might. And so from there, Rio, Wong, and Joy head over to the convenience store. It's not the Tomato Mart, unfortunately, which
Fucking rip.
yeah, it's a missed opportunity. It would have been a
How-
nice little Easter egg.
How are you
but,
gonna not put in Tomato Mart? That's classic.
Yeah, you could have had the song.
Come
you know?
on.
Yeah. But so he walks up to because like they just sort of presume that the cashier who just happens to be there is the person they're looking for, and they're talking to her for a little bit, and she's like, "Hey, this like Japanese dude, I'm from Japan as like a exchange student." And she asks him if he's a martial artist. He doesn't even answer, and she just fucking throws a punch at him.
Yeah.
And he catches it, and she's like, "Yeah, you're
Well, because she's a
you're all
woman.
right."
It's just that easy. It's that easy for him
to get assaulted by them.
No, just to block it.
Ah,
Yeah, because it's a woman. You know, and Rio's got no time. He's like, psh, you know.
not Shuying though.
Oh,
She's like, I could kill you.
Nah, you wait. He's like, yeah, whatever. You're a woman.
So he was just pulling his punches, is what you're getting at.
That's right. Yeah.
Ruh-roh.
Never let your ego die.
So he asks the cashier about the Wude, and she doesn't have any idea what they are either. So he's just sort of like, damn, you know, what the hell? No one knows what these things are. If they're so important, why doesn't everyone know?
Yeah.
You know? But from there, we go back to Shuying and Fong Mei running errands, and they come across these thugs who are threatening a couple of kids on the street, and one of the kids kicks the thug in the groin.
Hell yeah.
And before the thug is able to sort of retaliate, he has this like metal pipe in his hand.
Dude, he's gonna fucking kill that kid.
He's gonna cave the kid's head in.
Yeah.
So Shuying like grabs the pipe and is like, "Hey, you little shit, you're not supposed to beat up kids. Like, what are you doing?"
Especially not with a fucking metal pipe.
Yeah. Yeah, basically he sort of I don't know, like they're getting ready to fight Shuying, and
She just stands there.
yeah, she just
Menacingly.
stoically stands there, and her like aura appears around her.
It's
and,
very Dragon Ball Z-esque.
yeah, yeah.
My God. I didn't mention this also. Speaking of Dragon Ball Z, that fucking whoever the fuck the spar person at Pigeon Park, that's a fucking android from Dragon Ball
Yeah,
Z.
she looks like Android 18.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't look like any other fucking character. And immediately, like, even from the back, it's like, oh, that's the person they need to talk to.
Yeah.
Like, very animated and weird clothes. And then she turns around, and I'm like, I've seen that before.
So in the game, that is how she dresses, how she's at the park practicing martial arts.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, but it's just interesting because she and the girl at the convenience store are both optional characters that you only really have to talk to get the duck racing in the game.
Dude, I'm waiting for the duck racing episode. That's gotta be next. It's gotta be.
But what's interesting, and like this could be opinion because I sort of suck at fighting games, but the hardest fight in the game, in my opinion, is the girl from the convenience store. Since it's like an optional fight that you don't have to do to beat the game, they really crank up the difficulty. And she has these, essentially these moves where if you fail a quick time event 4 times, then she instant kills you.
Jesus.
Or she instantly beats you in the battle. And so I suck at those QTs because like there's different types of quick time events in Shenmue 2. There's like the normal ones where it's button prompts, and then there's command quick time events which are like you press multiple ones at the same time and it shows you the prompt, but if you don't time it perfectly, then you just get wrecked. And they're tough.
It sounds like the pull-ups in Final Fantasy VII, the new remake.
Yeah,
You get a time
I'd
the
say
hole.
yeah. But
That was cancer.
Yes. But yeah, so I have never gotten to the duck races, unfortunately, but
Wow.
yeah.
Well, get on it, dude. Didn't you just replay Shenmue 2?
Yeah, and I beat Eileen because you fight her in order to unlock the second fight. And then the second fight, I got her to like the last bar of health, and I could not do it. Like I tried it like 5 or 6 times, and I could not.
5 or 6.
You never played a numbers?
You never played a FromSoft game.
No.
Yeah, if I gotta go 50, 60 times, and then you get
Fuck
it.
no. Yeah. So after getting back on topic here, those kids, essentially. Shu Ying has used her aura to cause the thugs to run off. They're like, we don't want to fuck with this bitch, and they run off because they're freaked out. And the little kid who kicked the guy in the balls is like, yeah, I need to get stronger so I can beat the shit out of them and make it so they don't terrorize my sister anymore. And Shu Ying is like, she sort of has a bit of that sort of memory triggered for her about her brother.
A still image.
Yeah. So she is like, hey, kid, don't do that just to get revenge. Like, that's going to set you on a bad path. Just,
And he's like, who the fuck are you?
And she's like, watch the previous episode.
That's right.
Yeah. So from there, we go to Rio, Wong, and Joy. They are sort of at their wits' end trying to find a martial artist, and they take a break at the tea shop from earlier. And they watch this thug harassing a dude on the street, and Rio sort of gets up to sort of help the guy out, but Joy is like, nah, that's just
we
sort of...
We don't do that to you.
Yeah, it's like, no, never help anyone ever.
It's Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's basically...
And then they bring the confetti back.
Yeah.
And
it's her catchphrase.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, that's just how the city is. Like, don't, you can't really help everyone. And Wong explains that the thug is probably with the land sharks, who are essentially trying to drive tenants out of, the apartments and the businesses in the city. So that way, basically real estate investors can swoop in and redevelop the city and make a huge profit off of sort of redeveloping all the buildings and stuff. The clock strikes 4. And Wong is like, oh, this is like prime pickpocketing time. I got to go out. And this causes Rio to remember that he was supposed to be back at the temple at 4, or at 3, actually. So he's an hour late to, finish airing out the books and get them back into the temple. So he runs back to the temple, and Fang Mei, of course, keeps yelling at him some more.
Good for her.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be pissed, too, if it was like, yeah, you agreed to fucking help me put away all these books. Like, that's a lot of books.
I was like, yeah, Rio, you fucking suck. And then Rio comes back with the like, bitch, I didn't come all the way from Japan to air out books. It's like, this is not why I'm here. And I was like, Rio, you make a good point. That's true.
And from there, like, Fang Mei, she's like, well, why are you in Hong Kong? And he's like, oh, I'm here to find someone named Yanda Zhu. And she's like, I don't know who that is, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you because you're a piece of shit. Who. Yeah. So after that, Rio talks with Shu Ying, and she tells him that Fang Mei and him are sort of similar in certain ways, and that they're both straight arrows, and he shouldn't sort of think poorly of her because of that, even though she's been a total bitch to him throughout the episode.
It's kind of I thought that was kind of weird, where it's like, you were an hour late, and you shirked on your obligation. You're a straight arrow, kid.
Well, like, the thing is, he had explained to Fang Mei that he was trying to find someone to teach him about the Wude, and Shu Ying was listening to that, and she was like, he's at least
he's a straight arrow, that one.
Something good,
Not one of those gay arrows.
Jesus Christ. I don't know about that, Ben.
It's the 80s, they don't...
That doesn't make it right.
No, I'm just saying. He's straight. It's fine. It's a straight arrow.
Is he straight? He's more asexual.
That's true. That's very true.
But after that, we go back to the tea shop, and Wong asks Joy why she's helping Rio so much, and she sort of is covering up the fact that she's crushing on him hard. She's like, oh, it happened. Don't ask any questions. Don't worry about it. And so then from there, let's see, where are we? Oh yeah, they overhear the server in the tea shop, talking about how there's a martial artist at the Yantin apartments who's been keeping the land sharks at bay, and they're like, oh shit, we gotta tell Rio about this. And from there, we have Shu Ying talking to Fong Mei, and she's like, yeah, Rio and you are both straight shooters, and that might be why you're not really getting along. And so Fong Mei's like, oh, well, maybe I need to sort of reconsider what I think about him. And then after that, Rio shows up at the temple, like the front of it, and he's talking to Han Hui, Stalin Stash. And he essentially, Han Hui tells him that, he's only really focused on moving towards his goal. And he's like, yeah, that is important, but you also need to focus on what's going on around you. That's like an important part of traveling. Like, it's not just about the destination. It's sort of about growing along the way as well.
Stop and smell the roses, Rio.
Exactly. And so from there, Han Hui is like, yeah, like, you're not doing enough. You don't have enough yet. And that triggers a memory of Rio's father from the first episode where he's like, it's not enough. It's not enough. And so Rio's like, oh, like it's...
And then from then on, Rio had a complex.
But after that, Wong and Joy show up at the temple, and they tell Rio that there's a martial artist over at the Yantin apartments, and Fong Mei sort of eavesdrops on this conversation, and she follows Rio over to the Yantin apartments. And once Rio gets to the apartments, he sees the land sharks are harassing Gui Zhang. I almost said harassing Gui Sang.
Oh, that would have been a booger.
But they're over at they're harassing her, trying to get her to move out, and she's not gonna budge though. She's like, "Fuck you guys." Like,
yeah. She's a thug.
Yeah,
She's straight thugging.
She's like, "No, you give me your money," and they're like,
"Oh shit, here you go." I'm sorry.
And so Rio shows up just in time to help her. And he tells the thugs that he used to be just like them and he didn't focus enough on the present. But they're just like,
yeah,
that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
That was awesome. Where he was like, you all don't look at your destination. You're too in the present and you don't look at your surroundings. I was like that. And they're like, you're full of shit. And then just like fight him. It was hilarious.
Yeah, so they start fighting him and they're totally outmatched. He's doing a lot of, like, I'm glad that we're seeing more fighting moves other than the swallow dive, like, and they're moves from the game.
But he didn't narrate every one. I didn't know what he was doing.
That's also fair. But it's just cool seeing that the fights are a little more dynamic now that he's in Hong Kong. But he's able to drive off all these thugs, and Gui Zhang asks him why it was that he helped her, and he says, is sort of based on what she had said to him earlier, and he was like, yeah, helping the people of Hong Kong just seemed like the right thing to do. And after that, Gui Zhang reveals that she was the martial artist that he was looking for, and she teaches him that, because he's sort of learned this lesson, he has already learned the third Wude, which is Yi.
Yeah.
Which means to act without hesitation for what is right.
And he gets the achievement pop and everything.
Yeah, they do the doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Fong Mei, she's eavesdropping on all this, and she's like, yeah, like this Rio guy, he's not so bad after.
Let an old lady die.
Yeah. So after that, we have Rio. He's walking through the streets of Hong Kong yet again, and he has another one of his classic epiphanies where he's like, I get it now. Just like the past two episodes. And he heads over to Manmo Temple, and he explains to Shu Ying that he's learned Yi, and he's like, that has to be what I didn't have, and that's why you won't help me. And Shu Ying is like, it's not something that you're missing, it's that you have like the fire of revenge in you. And she's like, that's why I won't help you, because, sort of seeking out revenge makes you no better than a murderer.
Yeah,
basically.
She's like, murder in the name of revenge is still murder.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, and this is the first time that we've heard the word revenge uttered in the entire anime so far, which is interesting, because, like, from the beginning of Shenmue 1, he's like, gotta get revenge, gotta get revenge, gotta get revenge.
Yeah.
But in the anime, he's been more focused on, like, finding the truth about why his father got murdered. And so sort of what we've been talking about throughout these episodes is that is more or less just like a cover for him actually being like intent on getting revenge. Like that is his motivation, and he's just using finding the truth as like a rationale for it. He's like,
right.
Yeah. So it's interesting that we finally have gotten to that point, and I'm glad that we finally did. It's like, thank goodness, like, because it's pretty important to Rio as a character. But yeah, Shuying is like, no, I'm not gonna teach you like who Yandazu is. Like, it just no, that's it. We're leaving it at that.
Phooey.
And so Rio goes inside of Manmo Temple and talks with Fang Mei, and Fang Mei apologizes to Rio for misjudging him and tells him that she had actually seen a book written by Yandazu inside of the library called the Wulenshu. And so from there, he goes into the library, finds the book, and the episode ends. And it's interesting that's because like in the game, the Wulenshu is behind like a locked cabinet that Rio, like, he sees the name of the book and he knows Yandazu wrote it, but Shuying won't give him the key to it because she's like, all this is gonna do is like continue you down that path of revenge. So she's like, I'm not gonna give you the key until you sort of show me that you're
in the book.
So it's a martial arts, like, it sort of has like a guide for the different forms of martial arts or different styles. And at the time, let's just sort of walk through this. It's the 80s. There's no internet. Sort of like documentation on different martial arts styles would be harder to come by.
Okay.
And so Yandazu wrote this book that has basically a guide for the majority of like Chinese martial arts styles, even like ones from like rural China.
How does that even help his quest though?
Because Yandazu wrote the book.
So?
And he thinks it will have a clue to help him find Yandazu, which it does, but that's next episode stuff that we'll get to at some point. But
they're gonna have that goofy barber in the next episode?
I'm interested to see how they do that. And we did have someone comment, and they thought it was funny that Ben didn't really appreciate
I don't.
Yeah.
That's a stupid ass lesson.
But it's like
help everybody around you. All right, cool. Don't fucking show off your entire prowess. Keep it subtle. All right, cool.
Yeah.
What's the other? Gone. What's that one? Fucking, I don't know. Hey, but it made sense.
Yeah.
Don't react. Stupid.
Well, I'm gonna look up what it is right now so I can fucking actually explain that. All right.
What's it called?
I'm gonna have to Google it.
There's gone, fucking.
I'm gonna just look up all four.
What the other
We're gonna have all four right now.
All right, hit me with it. Hit me with the Wude.
Okay, so we got Gon, which is discipline yourself to keep training every day without neglect.
Makes sense.
We have G, which is to keep your heart free of conceit and do not use force thoughtlessly or flaunt your technique.
Of course.
We have Yi, which is to always act without hesitation to do what you perceive as right.
Beautiful.
And then the fourth one, which we have not learned yet, is to be brave and stay calm to make the right decision.
Bitch, a fucking razor to your neck is not a test of bravery.
So, sort of going off of that, like the line he says in the game is like, I didn't sense any malice with the blade.
Shut the fuck up.
And so it's like,
and then he died.
And then he died.
That's retarded.
Did not sense any malice. That's what his gravestone
Jesus
says.
Christ.
But well, I don't think
That's
we're
what
gonna
I'm saying. I'm gonna throw myself in with junkyard dogs and be like, well, I don't sense malice. Stupid.
It's gonna be interesting though to see if that's what we do in the next episode. My guess is just because of how much is still left of Hong Kong, I don't think we're gonna do the barber. Like, I think they're gonna sort of incorporate him learning that into some of the other events that happen towards the end of his time in Hong Kong. And I'm sort of interested in hearing your perspective on because like at the pace we're going, just with how much happens in Kowloon after this, do you think we're actually gonna make it to the cave from the beginning of like the first episode?
I don't know where we're at in the game. Like, I really have no scope or a sense of scale on, like, where we are.
We're not even a third of the way through Shenmue 2.
Damn. And there's 5 episodes? I mean, we did the first game in 5 episodes. There's 5 left.
That's fair, yeah. And it's like, there's just so much that happens in Kowloon. And granted, you could shave down, like, some of the, like, action, I guess. And, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they play that. But I could easily see us ending this on the top of basically the end of disc 2 of the game of Shenmue 2, which is like 2/3 through, more or less. Because that's like, it ends on a pretty big fight scene, and then we have this sort of big reveal with Yandazu sort of revealing more about the mystery of the mirrors and stuff like that. I feel like we could feasibly end it there and be like, well, how does he get to the cave? And they're like, you got to find out in season 2.
Oh.
At the end.
And then he gets there in 3 episodes?
Yeah, but my guess would then be that they do that stuff and then Shenmue 3. Because Shenmue 3, not a lot happens.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
That's what I've heard.
you could sort of roll those into one, like him throughout rural China, like getting to Bailu Village, and then doing all that stuff. So
Talking for 4 days.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I guess, I could see that. I could see them, like, I hope that. I would rather have that. 'Cause
yeah.
It sounds like they'll pace it out better.
Yeah.
But I can still see them throwing this entire second game in 5 episodes. I see it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, we've got time. We'll see how things sort of shake out. But
At the pace they're going, there's no way.
yeah.
So, like
And
I
that's
said,
wh-
I hope
that's
they
why I
just
think-
maintain the pace and have to do another season.
Yeah. So I think the idea is that, like, Hong Kong, they slowed things down. Maybe in Kowloon they'll sort of pick up the pace a bit. We'll see. But what did you think of the episode overall?
It was fine. It kind of was directionless for most of it. Like, it was a lot of, like, stuff that didn't matter at all and had no relevance, where they're just like, oh, I gotta find this martial artist. And then 2/3 of it is just like, is it you? Who they? Who you? Do you know the Wude? No woo. Do who do? And that's like a lot of this episode.
Yeah, and it's like, I do appreciate that they showed, Eileen and the fucking girl at the convenience store whose name I don't remember right now. But, it's cool that we saw them because they are, like, sort of Easter egg characters, more or less. But on the other hand, I do agree that, like, it would have been better to have, like, Rio moving towards a goal, like, more consistently, I guess. And
Yeah,
granted,
like the
he is
last episode, it was like we knew that these masters and people knew the Wude,
Yeah.
and he had to, like, get them to open up about it.
Yeah.
So you had the whole episode with the same characters. This one, it's like, here's this person and this person, none of them matter. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, cool.
Yeah, so, and that's sort of jumping off on that, just with how they handle things with the next episode, it'll be interesting to see if they sort of go back to what they did in the previous 2, where it's like, yeah, like, we have just one master or whatever who teaches it, or if it's going to be him bouncing around and then just happening to learn it somehow.
Mm-hmm. It was an average episode, it didn't offend me. It just was like,
Yeah, it's
not much happened.
But it's like, I don't think that's a bad thing, because it doesn't actively, like, towards the end of his time in Japan, I was like, man, these episodes, they're real rough.
Yeah.
So it's like, I have enjoyed that the episodes have remained consistent.
I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like slightly, like a very slight decline. Like, it's not like it's dropping off, but it seems like it's not as good as, like, every episode's not as good as the last one.
So, why do you think the episode was called Aspiration?
Because it sounds like asinine, like all the fucking names. I don't
Like
fucking
ass,
know.
like Joy getting her ass grabbed by Wong.
Hey, that's ass perspiration.
Ah.
Yeah.
So,
because he's aspiring to blank.
to learn about the
Fill it in
voodoo.
yourself. He's aspiring to be a master. He's aspiring to fight Lan Di. He's aspiring to... I don't know.
Yeah.
get every woman to want to bang him.
Yeah.
You could have named any episode in this entire series Aspiration, and you'd be like, yep, Rio's there doing that.
So from there, do we have any sort of final thoughts on the episode overall? Or?
It's still just so jarring how fucking like sexed up Joy and the Master are.
Yeah.
Like their tits are fucking gargantuan.
Yeah.
Like I can't emphasize these Gahana Gahoogs enough. And they like lift them up, like they do this like crossed arm thing, and they lift them all up in your face, and the camera frames them right there, and it's just like, man, I can't focus. Like literally, I missed some stuff in scenes because I wasn't drooling. I wasn't like, it was so hot.
You're just like, those are
I was like, oh my god, what is this?
People joked that it's like, you know, they're taking some Dead or Alive,
some real
sorta...
sexy liberties.
And it's like, you gotta know your audience, Ben. This is anime, you know? If you don't have a female teacher with massive cans, then is it really an anime?
This is kind of off topic, but I've been watching Boardwalk Empire on HBO, and it's about the 1920s bootlegging, you know, mafia, mob, whatever, Irish, you know, in fucking Atlantic City, Chicago, New York, very in depth. They go into the business. They talk about this. They dress real nice. You know, they're very formal. And then, like, every other scene is just, like, a Game of Thrones level fucking sex scene. Like, full frontal all the time. Like, they'll finish the scene and then just fucking, like, have 3 minutes of sex.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jesus Christ, who put the porno into my show?
HBO.
Like, and it's, and, like, it's, like, you know, I'd be lying if I wasn't like, ooh. But it's gratuitous.
Yeah.
It's like, why is this here? This is detracting.
Yeah, it's why I couldn't watch The Sopranos with my family.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, it's I don't.
But I mean, they're at a strip club and shit. I mean, that never takes away from a scene because you got to show that Tony's just a gross fucking you know, cheating on his wife all the time. And then they like what they do is they like show the tail end of the sex, and then they're like, all right, now let's have dialogue again.
Yeah.
Part of that maybe Boardwalk Empire's like, we had our dialogue, let's have sex, and it's
when
like,
did
Jesus.
that show come out?
Boardwalk, like 2010s.
Okay, so it's like, I don't know, a decade after Sopranos.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like maybe
and then Game of Thrones goes like even further with it.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, it's basically
where they literally just have somebody like eat out, like Grey Worm eats out Missandei on screen, and you're just like
saying names.
Holy
I don't even know
shit.
who those people are.
No, it's just like, oh my god, dude, I can just watch porn. Like you don't need to put it into the show. But
are the books like that? The Game of
I'm
Thrones
sure,
books?
but it's books, you know, fucking whatever.
That's just
I don't know.
That's fucking weird.
All my point was that I get the same feeling of like this is just gratuitous, and it takes away from the serious the fucking tone.
Yeah.
The Master, it's like Joy can be really hot. That's fine. Like she's kind of dressed loosely and is like, hee, I'm a girl around town and you can stay at this place for free because hee. It's like, okay, yeah, we don't ask, don't tell, honey. I get it. But fucking the Master, she's like, fucking her dress is all the way up to her ass. And like they draw like her fucking like groin indentation where her fucking pussy would be. And it's just like, Jesus. Dude, I don't need to see all of this. But anyway.
Yeah. I agree. It sort of crosses a line where it's like, okay,
it's
like, yeah. It's an interesting art direction. We'll say that. All right, so that's going to do it for today's episode of the Boyos Discuss. If you enjoyed the podcast and are watching on YouTube, then we'd appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back next week to talk about episode 9 of Shenmue the Animation. Anyways, guys, until next time.
No prize.
Especially since you bought merchandise.